Remember, as a child, people would say, Friday the 13th. It's a bad omen, Friday the 13th.
Oh, yeah.
But the truth is that Friday the 13th is a superstition. It's not real. Nothing's wrong with Friday the 13th. It's not a bad omen. And on a similar note, in 1990, Shamir called up the Rebbe's office and told the Rebbe's office that Arafat Imach Shemo has given instruction to all the different tentacles of the PLO that they should make a day of attack, chas shalom, on the Jewish people. So the Rebbe right away, within an hour later, after Mincha, the Rebbe spoke about this, and the Rebbe said that in order to add to the blessing and the welfare and the security of the Jewish people, wherever they are, that certainly they have already God's blessing for security, etc. But in order to add to it, especially because there are those who are plotting chas shalom, there are those that say that there are people plotting to hurt them chas shalom, and certainly their thoughts will be null and void, and only good will happen to the Jewish people. But to add to the blessing of the Jewish people, to add to their security, to add to their welfare, the Rebbe said everyone should do three things. Number one, everyone should add in Torah, every person according to their level. Number two, everyone should say 3 chapters of Tehillim, and be best to conclude with the last chapter of Tehillim, which the last words of the last chapter of Tehillim are, every soul will praise Hashem, and in addition to saying Tehillim and learning Torah, everyone should also give tzedakah. How much tzedakah should you give? Instead of fasting, the Rebbe said everyone should give the value of 2 meals or 3 meals to charity, to give at any time everyone likes to give. But every man, woman, and child should do all these things, learn more Torah, say 3 chapters of Tehillim, and give tzedakah, and especially best to give tzedakah to institutions of Torah study, and especially institutions of Torah study or institutions that spread the Torah. That's what the Rebbe said then, and he underscored also about thinking good and trusting in Hashem, and how it's certain that all of their words, Utzoyt v'Sufar, will see how they make a plan, and it's absolutely nothing. So we don't have to worry about Friday the 13th or about anything else happening tomorrow. Absolute certainty in the trust in Hashem, that Hashem will bless all the Jewish people wherever they are, and just to do these 3 things to add to God's blessing, to add to Hashem's security. I want to dedicate our shir tonight to all those who need a refuah shlema, and our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael, especially those in the armed forces, especially those who are Rahman al-Islam, who are captured. Hashem should free them and send gesund and health in a miraculous way for a complete and speedy recovery. And the emes and nechama, the true comfort for those who have lost people in their family, Rahman al-Islam, the true comfort could only be with the coming of Mashiach to kingdom, B'kar of Mamish. Amen. There was these 2 guys standing outside a church. One of them was wearing that red suit that character wears on their holiday. And the other guy was a Yid with a long beard. They're both standing outside a church. And the guy they're both collecting charity. Everyone walks out of the church, and they see this Jew collecting charity, like they turn away from the Jew, and they walk to the guy with the red suit, and they give him extra charity. They show like, we're with him, we're not with him. And everyone's pouring money onto this red suited gentleman. And the Jew, everyone's like turning away from him. They want to give extra money to the other guy. And while this is going on, another Jew walks by. He's like, what is this guy doing? Standing outside a church collecting charity? What is he thinking? So he says to him, what are you doing, Rabbi Yid? Why are you standing outside a church collecting charity? So the Jew turns to the guy in the red suit. He says, Yankel, they're telling us how to do business. In a similar way, there is a powerful idea that's relevant to each of us in this week's Torah portion, especially in the time that we're in right now. There's a line I was thinking about last Shabbat in chapter 92 in Tehillim. It says, "Befroach Roshain Kamo Ois Esav." when you see the wicked sprout like grass, you see all those who are doing evil flourish, you should know the Yisham Damadiyad. You should know that this is a preparation to destroy them forever. Mm-hmm. Even when you see they make all these plans, you should know this is all preparation for their destruction. In this Torah portion, this week, Bereshis, it says the way this Shabbos goes, the whole year goes. What does the Torah begin with this week? It starts off with the world is covered in darkness. Hashem says, let there be light. And there was light. Then it says in the Torah, Hashem saw the light was good. Hashem separates the light from the darkness. And it was evening, it was morning, it was one day. So you read these verses and you have a lot of questions. Question number one, why did Hashem make light first? Why first with light? What's the purpose of making light first? There's no one there to enjoy the light. Light is for warmth, light is to see. There's no one there to see, nothing exists yet. Why make light? Question number two.
What light before the sun?
How come Hashem is separating between the light and the darkness? Where there is light, there's no darkness. Where there's darkness, there's no light. Why does it say Hashem separates between them? You have to separate between light and darkness? Light is in one place. Wherever there's light, there's not going to be darkness. Why does Hashem have to separate them? And number three, Hashem sees this light as good. So what does he do? He separates it, and Rashi says, the Talmud says, he puts it away for the future. He puts it away for the time of the coming Mashiach. What's good about this light? And if it's good, why is he putting it away? What's going on over here? So the answer is this. Whenever you do something, before you begin anything, you have to first set out the plan of the goal. What are you trying to accomplish? What's the purpose? So Hashem makes a world. What's the purpose of the world? The purpose of the world is that v'yeda kol pol ke'ata pa'alte, v'yavim kol yitzur ke'ata yitzarte, v'yomer kol Hashem v'ape Hashem al-ke'yisol malach m'chusel akil mashallah. Hashem wants the world to be a place that every creature in the world should know that Hashem made it. That everything that was formed by Hashem's hand should know that Hashem formed it. That everything should cry out and say, Hashem. Everything, the world should be a godly, holy place. It should be revealed in the world. That's the purpose of creation. So Hashem, first thing he does is he creates light. The world felt, when Hashem made the world, its inner energy. The world felt the godly energy that animates it and creates it every single moment. That's what the world felt when God made the world. However, that's not the purpose of God's project of creation. The goal of creation is not that the world should feel God's presence because God makes us feel His presence. Rather, Hashem wants us to be creative. Hashem wants us to be partners in creation. In order for us to be partners in creation, Hashem has to leave something for us to do. So what does Hashem do? He takes the light, the revelation of Hashem in the world, and He makes a world that's very egotistical, that feels that I am what I am, as if the world is its own force, it doesn't have a source. Hashem hides His light. Hashem hides His light completely to the extent that people could wonder if there is a creator in the first place or not. There's a Big Bang, even though it doesn't make any sense, because how could there even be anything without Hashem doing it? But there has to be a source. And yet Hashem makes this concealment. He hides Himself. Why is He hiding Himself? Because He wants light, yes, but He wants us to create the light. He wants us to have the ingenuity and the fortitude to create the light ourselves. So that when Yankel goes over to Shmerel and he gives him a smile, and Yankel forgives Shmerel for what Shmerel did to him, and Yankel helps Shmerel out, and Yankel davens to Hashem earnestly, he creates light himself. He makes something that wasn't there before. He causes that when Mashiach will come, again, Hashem's light will be revealed in the world. But at this time, it will come because we created the light, that we caused this to happen. That's why Hashem, so everything fits very well. First, there is light of Hashem that fills all creation. We see the truth. Then Hashem hides it because He wants us to participate. After setting the goal for creation, so Hashem creates the playing grounds, the field for the game. And then it's not a game where there's a loaded deck or the loaded dice or whatever it's called, because Hashem hid Himself. And then we contribute and we create the world. We create a place where Hashem is revealed in the world. That's what the Torah is saying. Problem is this. Torah says, what's the first thing the Torah says? The world was desolate and empty, and there was darkness. 1 second. It says there was darkness before there was light. What's going on over here? If the Hashem is setting up the purpose for creation, let there be light, but before it says there's light, there's already darkness. What's going on over here? How's there darkness? darkness is a creation of Hashem, and He made the darkness before the light. What's happening here? So the Talmud says this: Rabbi Zera was once looking at Rabbi Yehuda, who was standing at the doorway of his father-in-law's house, and he saw his father-in-law was in a great mood, and he saw he could ask him anything he wants. He saw his teacher, Rabbi Yehuda, was in a great mood, and he said to Rabbi Yehuda, "I have a question for you." What's my question? My question is, how come when sheep go out to pasture, there's always a dark goat that leads the sheep out to pasture? The sheep are all white, and they're led by a dark goat. What does that mean? So Rabbi Yehuda said, it's very simple. It says in the Torah, and there was evening, and there was morning one day. First there's evening, then there's morning. Because there's evening, there's morning, therefore the dark goat goes in front of the sheep. What's the question? What's the answer? We know our sages, they say things, it's not just saying a story, it's deeper. It's a story I shared a few times about my friend Rabbi Savatitsky, the Rebbe's emissary to Antwerp. When he was a child, he had a very hard time speaking. He stuttered a lot. It was so hard for him to speak that when he was 9 years old, instead of saying, "How old are you?" 9, he would say 8 plus 1, because he couldn't say Tesha, he couldn't say 9. You go to the store to buy things, instead of saying what he wants to buy, he would write things down first. He could just point to the guy and say, "Here, I want to buy A, B, and C." When he was bar mitzvah, Rabbi Shlomo Lau wrote a beautiful speech for him, but he only said 2 words, and on cue, he knew the class was supposed to interrupt him so he wouldn't have to speak. By his wedding, he couldn't say to his wife, "Harei mikudeshet li kedat Moshe Yisrael," be married to me, because he was afraid to stutter. He was having a really hard time with his stuttering problem. And yet, he gets married, he comes to the Rebbe for private audience, and he had many different ideas of what he was going to do after he got married. And after he comes into the Rebbe's room with his wife, the Rebbe looks at them, the Rebbe looks at the paper, and the Rebbe says, "You write all these suggestions of where you want to go after you get married, but all of them are in Israel. Why don't you think about a place," Rebbe looked outside, "why don't you think about a place outside of Israel, like Belgium, Antwerp, for example?" So they knew that this was not just any random suggestion of all the places in the world. This was their life's mission. But they walked out of the Rebbe's room and they looked at each other like, how is he supposed to be the guy to be the first emissary of the Rebbe in this brand new city? You know, in Chabad, just like in the army, there's the army, there's the navy, there's the Marines, there's the Air Force. A guy who's going to conquer a new city and make that a new place, a new synagogue, he's got to be like the Marines. The Marines you have to have so many different talents, and it would seem. And what he realized was, here's just stuttering, bumbling guy, and how's he going to do it? What he realized is that the Rebbe believes in him. And the Rebbe sees in him something that he doesn't know he has himself. And because the Rebbe believes in him, he started to believe in himself. He said, the Rebbe sees in me something that I could do, that I didn't know I could do before. And this is a very powerful thing that happened to him. And Baruch Hashem today, he's one of the greatest speakers and inspires people around the world. He took what the Rebbe said, with the Rebbe's belief in him, and he knew that the situation he was in was temporary, and there's going to be light that comes out of the situation. There was darkness, there was a situation that seemed impossible to get out of, and so too for each of us, we all have situations that we're in, that we go through the same mistakes, whether it's some people have a financial situation, a health situation, a emotional character problem, we make the same mistakes again and again, and we feel like we're not going to get out of it. And so the Torah tells us, you should know, and that was the Reb Zera's question. Why is it that there's this darkness before the light? Why does Hashem make darkness before the light? What's the purpose? Why not just make light first? Why is it the nations of the world, they have wealth, and they have glory, and the Jewish people, they suffer? Why is it that in vegetation, first there's the peel, then there's the fruit? First there's the peel of the fruit, and the leaves, and only then comes the fruit. Why can't it be the fruit first? Why does there have to be all this first? So what did Yehuda answer? That's how God made the world. There was evening, there was morning. But how does that answer the question? It doesn't answer the question. That just transfers the question to another setting. Yes, Hashem made the world in a way there was evening and there was morning, but that doesn't answer the question. That just makes the question greater. So why should Hashem make the world that way? Let him make first morning. Why does he make evening first and morning? And the answer is this. The answer is, he said it was one day. Evening and morning, although it seems to us that they're very different, they're all part of the same day. it seems that evening is one power and morning is another power, and they have nothing to do with each other. One precedes the other. But the truth is that they're both exactly part of the same thing. The Hebrew word for evening, arvit, has three other translations. Arvit, or erev, means the day before, like erev Shabbat, is day before Shabbat. Erev also comes to the word arev, which means guarantor. Erev also means sweet. So if you're in a situation, you don't know how to get out of it, you should know this situation is temporary. And out of this situation is going to come something which is sweeter than was before. You have to know whatever's going on in God's world, God doesn't make darkness for darkness. You look in the Torah, when it says that God created, He called the day the light day, He says God called the light day. It doesn't say God called the evening night, because God doesn't associate Himself with evening and night, because it's not His goal, it's not His purpose. He's not about darkness. He's not about suffering, shalom. He's not about hurting. God makes evening for the sake of morning. There's a purpose. There has to be first a situation. There had to be this situation first of evening to get to morning. What guarantees the morning, what makes the morning sweeter, what prepares for the morning is evening. Evening and morning are part of the same day. It's not two different kinds of things. It's an amazing thing. It says, God said, by all their creations in the world, it says, God said, let there be, and there was. And it was so. Let there be animals, and there were animals. Let there be fish, and there were fish. Only by light does it say, let there be light, and what does it say? And there was light. Why does it say that? So one explanation is because as soon as God said, let there be light, then He hid the light. After to let there be light, light's in, and then God hides light. But Rabbi Moshe Levin says an amazing thing. A Jew has to know that whenever he's in a situation of darkness, he should know that he can just turn to Hashem and say to Hashem, let there be light. Immediately there's light. Let there be light immediately. And unfortunately, Rahman al-Islam, what's happening is a lot of light right now. A lot of people, a man is leaving his wife and his children, going to the front to fight, to save the Jewish people. He's giving his whole being. He's turning away from everything that's going on in his life, and he's going to give his life to, he may not come home to save the Jewish people. And even, in our town, over here, we're constantly hearing, and people are constantly giving and doing, sending bulletproof vests and collecting money and collecting food. I saw this cute letter today. This lady wrote to the soldiers, she said, guys, please stay alive, because I'm not married yet. Need to have options. Anyways, so people are sending letters. People, and the whole Israel divide that we knew. There's a big division in Israel, soul separation. Want to get the door? All of a sudden, there's this sense of love and unity and togetherness, and we have to realize that in ourselves, when we say Yehi let there be light, there's light. We have to know that the light, is in us. The Hebrew word for light is numerical equivalent to the word for secret. The Baal Shem Tov said, when you know the light, when you know the secret of something, you know the inner meaning of something, you could illuminate it. But the Hebrew word for secret has the same letters as the word stranger. When you're going through a situation that creates light in you, often while you're going through it, what do you feel? You feel it's a stranger. You feel it's nothing to do with light. It's nothing to do with the purpose. Nothing to do with the coming of Mashiach. Nothing to do with the ultimate good. This is the opposite. That's what you feel when you're going through something. And chas shalom, to open our mouth to the Satan and say with chas shalom that Hashem is a genius. He doesn't have to do anything in order to create goodness in the Jewish people. Hashem can create goodness and kindness and love without any negative. The power of each of us being in a situation, though, personally, when we're in a state of challenge, we have to realize that this state, you feel like you're a stranger. Why is this? What's going on? It doesn't make, you're not familiar with what's going on. It doesn't seem like anything to do with why you're here. And yet, from there comes the light. As the Torah says, it was a time of trouble for Yaakov. Yaakov had a time of trouble. Baal Shem Tov says, not just that God saves Yaakov from the problem, but the problem itself becomes the source of the salvation. What was previously the problem, that itself is a solution. That itself has caused a greater salvation than it was before. There's a Torah portion we read a few weeks ago. I just want to conclude with this. I read a Torah portion a few weeks ago called Hazinu. Hazinu has a lot of negative predictions about the future. In the temple of the Bais Hamikdash, this Torah portion was read in 6 sections, each week another section. Now usually when we read the Torah, we never want to end off in a negative. We always end off in a positive. And yet this section is read in the Torah, and it ends off in a negative. And you read another week, another negative. And then, so you're reading 1 week, you're reading the Torah in the Bais Hamikdash, and it's all negative. How could that be? What's going on? The answer is, it's one song. It's one song. Hazinu is the song and the story of the Jewish people. What's the story of the Jewish people? Our story is the coming of Mashiach. Our story is a 10th song that's going to happen. Mashiach will come. Our story is that's going to be the everlasting sweetness and goodness of coming Mashiach. That's what our song is. So in the Bais Hamikdash, they sensed the inner meaning of each part of the song. What is it? It's a song. And that's why halacha says, usually halacha says night goes before day. In the Bais Hamikdash, it was the opposite. Halacha says in the Bais Hamikdash, the day starts during the daytime and then it finishes at night. Usually the Torah says, as a Torah by creation, first there's evening, then there's morning. First there's confusion, then is there delight. But the Bais Hamikdash, what that means is if you go into your own Bais Hamikdash, if you go into your own inner sanctuary, your own place of clarity, your own place of goodness in yourself, then you'll discover that even what you thought before was darkness was also part of the light. It was also part of your journey. Each of us can look at different things in our own lives, how things we thought, why this happened to us? And yet, looking at it in hindsight, we see how specifically those items that we wouldn't wish never had, Hashem gave us something new that was beyond what we could have imagined. So, Eibusha should help us all. We should bring out in ourselves this greater light that Hashem is asking of us, a greater light in our Torah, greater light in our davening, greater light in our kindness to each other, and we should see the real light, the true light of the coming Mashiach, and then we'll realize, Yankel, they're telling us how to do business. We're going to see how all the things that seem to have nothing to do with our business, nothing to do with the coming of Mashiach, things which are the opposite of coming Mashiach, the red suit kind of things. We're going to see Mashiach comes, and all those things really are contributed to the point that we'll say to Hashem, Mashiach comes, Eidcha Hashem kenafta bi. Thank you, Hashem, for being angry with me. We can't imagine this today, but that's what's going on. Mashiach is coming, and Eidcha Hashem kenafta bi. And in the moments before the coming of Mashiach, we need to strengthen ourselves with happiness, with simcha, to bring out good energy in ourselves and our others, to tip the scale, to bring the Geulah. We're all on the front lines. We all matter. We may not have to give our lives. We're not called upon to do that. We're not called upon to give away all of our assets, and we're not called upon to give away our health. But we have to give from our heart a few minutes every day. Say Tehillim, to an extra Torah, to give more tzedakah, to give. We can't play around. We can't play around. Like the previous Rebbe said by World War II, he said every Jew is responsible to do something. We're all responsible. It all matters. Every prayer does something. Should see it happen tonight. The Mashiach Tzadkeinu, the true good and the perfect good of the coming Mashiach. Amen.